Okay, let's try this. We're gonna watch some pretty lackluster gameplay of Overwatch, and see if just kind of move on to the next part of liberals need a wake up call. In the last couple we've talked about why I'm bringing this up. We talked about why there's no point in liberals trying to distance themselves from both Republicans and the left, because Republicans and conservatives and reactionaries will do whatever it takes to ostracize or otherize, outcast leftist ideas by kind of boy crying wolf, the situation, constantly trying to witch hunt these people out in McCarthy style. In this one, I really wanted to talk about how and why capitalism is, it simply can't be the engine or machine of change that liberals really, want it to be. The primary reason for this comes down to Marxist analytics and historical materialism and dialectics, recognizing that the history of humanity has a ever-changing motion to it, and the dynamic and power exchanges are changing always, and so the current iteration of that power and exchange exists with the mode of production as capitalism, where the means of production are owned by the state, the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, as Lenin put it, and I think maybe Marx too. And so, and of course, the proletariat is basically enslaved, in economic slavery, as if slavery wasn't already economic, but a barely compensated wage slavery that's existed for a couple 200 plus years now. There's a perception, especially in modernity, classic liberalism has this too, but classic liberalism kind of exists as mildly moderate republicanism. The liberalism I'm really talking about in this modern era. Kamala Harris running on being the first black woman as vice president, I think, which she was, right? Or I don't actually know. Even though she's put like all these black men in prison, for example, in California when she was attorney general, I think, or lead prosecutor for the state, or I don't know what that shit's called, but she put a bunch of black dudes in prison for minor marijuana offenses, like thousands and thousands, laughed off when someone did ask her if she would change that. And, I get that she's just a Democratic puppet and blah, blah, blah. There's all these justifications that can go with it. But it's like utilizing the aesthetics of change in perpetuation of the status quo to, give a type of mix or twist to what we think is changing or what we think can help us if we just try a little, just try to be a little bit more understanding and, try to be honest and human and, like human capitalism. But as we, as any Marxist knows, for example, like capitalism is fundamentally exploitive. The entire system is contingent off of siphoning a large portion of the fruits of labor that the working class creates and giving it all to capitalists, people who aren't doing the work and already had plenty of stuff for themselves in the first place. So, how would a liberal practically invite a solution, propose a solution for something that's going to benefit people that doesn't have the profit motive as its primary core essential task? All examples that try to make up for the exploitive system are counterintuitive to how the system acts. So liberals wanting to pass higher wages for work is a great way to increase the standard and quality of life for people, but it's still wage slavery. It's still not a worker co-op. The means of production are still owned by the state and the bourgeoisie. So it's bandage solutions to problems. And some of these things may seem like they're actual solutions, like increasing people's pay, and there's real economic stability that can be brought in a capitalist fashion, in that type of dynamic and analysis but just by giving people more money for their labor can bring. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all these other essentially holes in the boat. There's like water coming in the boat and you plug in one and another one shows up, and it's constantly just trying to prevent the inevitable. It's an unsustainable system. It seeks infinite growth in a finite world, and all businesses that try to adhere to some iteration of liberalism might be doing it, yes, out of the sake of their heart, and they're trying to be good people. Maybe that does exist, okay? And they do want their workers at better pay and better lives. Maybe those people do exist. But it can't exist in truth, in value, in totality, in principle, because it always exists as symptomatic bandage solution, not symptomatic bandage, but they are bandage solutions to these systemic problems that are existing and getting in our way. It's the same thing as like when people say vote, right? Vote in elections to get Democrats in power, as if that's gonna fucking change anything. And I know there are like harm reduction leftists who are gonna talk about how we need to like make sure and vote not Republicans into office because it's a harm reduction vote. I mean, we can talk about that nuance, but that. The Democrats are dog shit and the Republicans are nuclear waste. Like, they're both poisonous, even if one is like, you can be around one and the other like alters your DNA when you're around the other. They're both bad. They're both pieces of shit that are decomposing. I don't know how to explain to people that there's no hope that any Democrat will ever actually embody what we think we want them to be, what we think that they are. They're not. It's pandering. It's bullshit. It's the duality of the one-party state that we already live in, the capitalist one-party state, and you have the reactionary, the immature, ridiculous, fearful Republicans, and then this, feigning, masking, reason and rationale, liberalism that's, of course, just equally bankrupt when you really take a look at it. And the worst part about it is that there's, I think, good intentions to this. There's, just this, even if they do have valid arguments about like things that went wrong in the Soviet Union or things that communism or socialism do have like issues with, like legitimate like holdups that they might have, and those might exist. But again, like these are logistical issues. These are like issues that exist to be solved with the people, for the people in that system, not they exist as enough to get rid of a system, not enough to not get rid of a system and act like that's too much from socialism and it's not going to be enough and it's a reason to dismiss it because it does that. What I really want to sell home here is that just look at the track record. Just Democrats really prove, man, even FDR, dude, passing all these New Deal stuff, right? Still threw Japanese Americans in internment camps, dude. Like this, there will always be this limitation to liberalism that people think is some kind of like necessary requirement to this boring dystopian political ideology. That's just not. It's not truthful. We can make these real changes. We don't have to. Act like we can't bite the hand that feeds. Even then, it's not that. We're feeding ourselves. It's just being fucked over by this obnoxious, like, other party that owns us. I think what I'll try to do is just go more in depth about that, maybe in the next one. But I really kind of wanted to start opening that up and talk about, like, really start peeling back the layers of why liberalism is never going to be this political ideology that good people, moderates, for example, really want to help bring that if we all just calm down and figure it out and listen to each other and take our values more seriously, but that will always get in the way of the profit motive. And since all businesses must function to make as much money as possible for efficiency's sake, that's going to have a conflict there. There's going to be some contrast. So we'll try to move on to the next one, see what we can do with that, and talk more on that one. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.